The M15 Plug-and-Play Retro Game Stick. A tiny, affordable HDMI dongle preloaded with thousands of classic games and 2 wireless controllers. Is this $30 stick really the key to 20,000 retro games? And is it worth it? Alrighty, on the back of the box there are a bunch of fluky dooky product specifications and legal disclaimers. Inside the box there are two 2.4G wireless PlayStation 5 style controllers, the M15 Game Stick, instructions, a USB wireless receiver for receiving the signal from the controllers, a USB cable for powering the stick, and a HDMI extension cable for getting into tight spaces. The controllers are powered by 2 AA batteries. The controllers have a lightweight, cheap plastic feel to them. The sticks feel pretty good. And they do press down. The D-pad does feel and sound a little clunky. The buttons have a nice feel. And the shoulder buttons aren't the greatest either. However, most of the games on the system won't require them. Okay, let's take a look at this stick. 4K Game Stick Pro. There is an SD slot on the side. This contains the operating system and all the games for the stick. This stick uses a cheap no-name SD card, so it is a good idea to back up and clone your GameStick SD cards on your computer. Setting up the stick is super easy. Attach the HDMI extension. Insert the USB remote wireless dongle for the controllers here. And insert the USB power cord here. Insert the other end to a USB charging outlet or standard charging block. Never use a high-speed charging block with these units. When the stick is powered up, these 2 blue lights come on. The HDMI extension is quite handy. As you can see, I have a lot going on back here. Here's the main screen. The navigation is fairly straightforward. Hitting the start button pulls up this menu. All you have is system settings, information, and language selection. 12/27/2024. Tapping the Y button pulls up a search menu. Here you can search for games by their title, which is very helpful because there are so many games on this game stick. In fact, there are over 20,000 games on this game stick, but don't set your expectations too high. There are many duplicates and foreign titles of the same game. And some games just run poorly on this stick, and others are just bad ROMs that don't run at all. Once you do find a game you like, you can save it to the favorites box right here. There are a lot of classic retro gaming platforms to choose from. MAME, Atari 2600, Atari 5200, Atari 7800, Atari Lynx, Capcom 1, 2, and 3. However, Capcom 1 and 2 are only demos. Capcom 3 has playables. PC Engine is a collection of classic PC Japanese titles. The classic Nintendo system, NES, Game Boy, Super Nintendo Famicom, which was the Japanese version of Super Nintendo, and here's Super Nintendo, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Sega Genesis, Game Gear, Genesis Mega Drive, Neo Geo Pocket, and PlayStation 1. Okay, let's take a look at the gameplay. Here's the Atari 2600, a classic that I can remember. Oh, and as you can see here, there are so many games to scroll through. That's the downside to these sticks, that there are almost too many games to choose from. Let's check out Asteroids, such a classic. Wow, hey look Ma, Asteroids in color! River Raid on the Atari 2600. So many memories. Okay, in arcade classics, here's Ms. Pac-Man. The display looks great. This is on a cheap 4K TV. The D-pad seems to be controlling the game perfectly, no problems here. Oh, Donkey Kong on arcade classics, nice. Oh, what a classic, love it. The Simpsons, classic arcade. During gameplay, hit select and start simultaneously to pull up this menu. This pulls up a menu where you can exit the game. You can also save your game, which is very helpful. For the NES, the original Nintendo Entertainment System, here's Excitebike. Contra on the NES. Yeah, the gameplay seems good, and the color is pretty close. Here's Super Mario 3 on the NES. The coloring is a little off, but the gameplay's solid. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for Super Nintendo, Super NES. On games like this, you can save your gameplay within the game like on the original system. Here's Tetris on the original black and white Game Boy. I really enjoy playing the handheld games on a very large screen. I know some people don't. Metal Slug on the Game Boy Advance. It looks kind of weird, but it's still playable. Sonic the Hedgehog on Sega Genesis. Color looks great. The controller is great. All systems go. Sega Mega Drive, Mortal Kombat. Let's take a look at the PlayStation 1 games. This is where the disappointment begins to set in. Here's Crash Bandicoot 3. The frame rate's very choppy and the game is not very playable. Medal of Honor, unplayable. R4 Ridge Racer, barely playable. Tekken 3, it's barely playable, but the sound is pretty bad. Listen to this. And here's an example of a game that just wouldn't play. Monday Night Football for the Super NES. This stick should be able to play this game just fine, but this was a bad ROM that was loaded onto it and it just won't play. The M15 is cheap, convenient, and has an insane amount of games, even if many are filler. So is it worth the money? Yes, probably. For a few dollars more, can you get a better game stick? Definitely. So what do you think? Would you like to buy a game stick?
You want to go home and rethink your life? I want to go.
Let me know in the comment box below.